Alright everybody, how is everyone today? Doing great today. The University of Oklahoma, this is the picks for the game. The only way to bounce back, if you're Oklahoma and all the rest of the teams that are 0-1, the only way to bounce back is to try not to go 0-2. And the only way to improve that is to go 2-0 if you're already 1-0. Who do I think will do all that and more? Well, you're about to find out because this is the picks preview for this week in college football. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Harry James Taylor here for Boomer Sooner 1982. As we do always, start in the conference that I have the most passion about because it's where I live in Oklahoma, and in the Big 12. In the Big 12, it all starts at 11 a.m. on Saturday. So there is no Thursday games, there's no Friday games this week, but there is a Saturday game between the University of Central Michigan, and they will beat at Okie State on Fox Sports 1 at 11 o'clock. I'm actually going to stick with Oklahoma State in this ball game to make that interesting. At kind of an awkward time, at least here in Oklahoma, there's a 1 o'clock kickoff, and that is because it's going to be out in West Morgantown, when Youngstown State will be at Morgantown, West Virginia, on the Roots Sports Network. I'm going to go with West Virginia. 1:30 here in local time here. We'll kick it back to the centrifugal location here in the States, where the rest of the Big 12 is, because Ohio will be at Kansas on Fox Sports Net. I'm going to go with Ohio in this ball game. Now, given I would take my Schooner hat if I could off to Kansas for last week, but there's a difference in talent between who they played last week and Ohio, so I'm going to stick with Ohio. 2:30 p.m. Speaking of difference in talent, Baylor is just way better than SMU. SMU will be at Baylor on Fox Sports 1. I'm going to go with Baylor. Here's an interesting game. Here's probably the exciting game in the conference this week. There's a huge conference slate next week, but in conference this week, Arkansas, the Razorbacks, will be at TCU in Fort Worth on ESPN at 6 o'clock. I'm actually going to go with TCU. I think the problem with TCU is they were kind of overlooking South Dakota State or wherever they played last night to this game. Obviously, so I think that offensively and defensively, they didn't really show all their cards. I think that you're going to be able to see hat tricks galore in this ball game against TCU. UTEP will be at Texas on the Longhorn Network. I'm going to go with Texas. And Oklahoma will try to bounce back in their renovated stadium as University of Louisiana Monroe is at Oklahoma on pay-per-view Sooner Sports TV. Two more games to tell you about in the Big 12 time zones. Iowa State will be at Iowa, the Big Ten Network. That one should be pretty interesting there, but I'm still going to go with Iowa. And then the late night kick, 9 o'clock. There'll be a team out in the Pac-12 conference, out in the Pac-12 country, when Texas Tech will be at Arizona State, finally on Fox Sports 1. I'm going to go with ASU. The rest of the slate for college football, no Thursday night games. A Friday night game. Couple of them. Like Maryland will be at Florida International on CBS. I'm going to go with Maryland. And then at 7 o'clock p.m. on ESPN The Deuce, Louisville will be at Syracuse on ESPN 2. I'm going to go with Louisville. Saturday, 11 a.m. From 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Kickoff to kickoff. Start with Penn State at Pittsburgh, and we'll end with Tennessee Martin at Hawaii. So, As I said, we'll start with at 11 a.m. with Penn State at Pittsburgh. I'm actually going to go with Pittsburgh in this ball game on ESPN. I will set them up at 2-0 for a big Oklahoma State match next week. Central Florida will be at Michigan on ABC. I'm going to go with the Blue, the Wolverines. Cincinnati will be at Purdue on the Big Ten Network. I'm going to go with the Purdue Boilermakers. The battle for Carolina will be on ESPNU. That is, NC State will be at East Carolina. I'm going to actually go with ECU in this ball game. ECU is a pretty good ball club. Of course, where Lincoln Riley comes from, so they know how to score some points there. That's on ESPNU. ESPN3, last weekend's opponent for Oklahoma, Houston, will again be in Houston, as they will play Lamar. Lamar will be at Houston on campus site this time. I'm actually going to go with Houston on ESPN3.com. Howard will be at Rutgers on the Big Ten Network. I'm going to go with Rutgers. Indiana State will be at Minnesota on ESPN News. I'm going to go with Minnesota. And on CBS Sports, Rice will be at Army. I'm going to go with Army. ESPN3, Boston College will be at the University of Massachusetts. I'm going to go with BC. Nicholls State will be at Georgia on the SEC Network. I'm actually going to go with Georgia. Prairie View A&M, the battle for A&Ms. Prairie View A&M will be at Texas A&M on the SEC Network. I'm going to go Texas A&M. By the way, congratulations to Trevor Knight. Undefeated in home openers. Winning last week against UCLA. And finally, Wyoming will be at Nebraska on ESPN Deuce. I'm going to stick with Nebraska. ESPN 2. 11:30 a.m. kick. Charleston Southern will be at Florida State on the ACC Network. I'm going to go with FSU. And Troy will be at Clemson on the ACC Network. I'm going to go with Clemson. Noon, Stony Brook will be at Temple on the 3, ESPN3.com. I'm going to go with Temple. ESPN3.com will also have Georgia State at Air Force. I'm going to go with the Air Force Academy. And Utah State will be at USC on the Pac-12 Network. I'm actually going to go with SC. 2 o'clock, Mercer will be at Georgia Tech on the ACC Network. I'm going to go with Tech. The 2:30 slate, the mid-slate. This is what the mid-slate looks like, if you will. North Dakota will be at Bowling Green on ESPN3. I'm going to go with BG, Bowling Green. UConn will be at Navy on CBS Sports Network. I'm going to go with Navy. Illinois State will be at Northwestern on the Big Ten Network. I'm going to go with Northwestern. Tulsa at Ohio State on ABC. Watch out for this one, folks. Tulsa can score some points. They got that Baylor offense thing going, and that's a good prep for Oklahoma next week. I'm still going to stick with Ohio State, but look for this one to be closer than the experts think. Tulsa can score with Ohio State, in my opinion. Staying in the state of Ohio, Eastern Illinois will be at Miami of Ohio on ESPN3. I'm going to go with Miami of Ohio. Wake Forest will be at Duke, the battle for Carolinas. I'm going to go with Duke on ESPNU. ESPN3 has Old Dominion at Appalachian State. I'm going to go with App State. Akron at Wisconsin on the Big Ten Network. I'm going to go with Wisconsin. The Badgers 2-0 to start their season. Nevada at Notre Dame on NBC. I'm going to go with Notre Dame. Bob and Mike's brother, Mark, in Kentucky, will be at the University of Florida, the Gators, on CBS. I'm going to go with the Florida Gators. And ESPN2 will have Western Kentucky at Alabama. I'm going to go with Alabama. 3 o'clock, Woolfolk will be at Ole Miss on the SEC Network. I'm going to go with Ole Miss. Ball State will be at Indiana on ESPN News. I'm actually going to go with Indiana in this ball game. Texas San Antonio, UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio, will be at Colorado State on the Campus Insider channel. Check local listings on that. I'm going to go with Colorado State. Back in regular television, SEC network, Middle Tennessee will be at Vandy on the SEC network. I'm actually going to go with Vanderbilt in this ball game. 4 o'clock p.m. Pac-12 network, Idaho will be at Washington. I'm going to go with Washington in this ball game. 4:30 p.m. A couple of games. Idaho State will be at Colorado on the Pac-12 network. I'm going to go with Colorado State. And on the BEIN network, B-E-I-N network, Morgan State will be at Marshall. I'm going to go with Marshall in this ball game. 5 o'clock p.m. Battle for Florida. Florida Atlantic will be at the University of Miami, the U. On ACC network, I'm going to go with the U, Miami. North Carolina A&T will be at Kent State, ESPN3.com. I'm going to go with Kent State. 6 o'clock p.m. Georgia Southern will be at South Alabama, USA. I'm going to go with South Alabama, ESPN3.com. McNeese State will be at Louisiana Lafayette on ESPN3. I'm going to go with Lafayette. Also on the ESPN3 network, North Carolina Central will be at Wyoming. I'm going to go with Wyoming. And Maine will be at Toledo on ESPN3.com. I'm actually going to go with Toledo in this bowl game. One game that is on regular television, the CBS Sports Network, University of Northern Illinois will be at South Florida. I'm going to go with South Florida. 6:30 p.m., a docket full set. Like the battle for Utah. Hopeful BYU newcomer, BYU, will put their foot forward against, and they will play Utah at Utah on Fox. I'm going to go with Utah in this ball game. Arkansas State and Auburn. Auburn tries to bounce back in this ball game on the SEC network. I'm going to go with Auburn. Also trying to bounce back on the from the SEC on ESPN. Eastern Missouri will be at the University of the Missouri Tigers. I'm going to go with Missouri. Also trying to bounce back out of the SEC. LSU, as Jacksonville State will be at LSU on ESPNU. I'm actually going to go with LSU. And out of the Big Ten, North Carolina will be at Illinois on the Big Ten Network. I'm actually going to go with North Carolina. 7 p.m., the night docket. Southern will be at Toledo. I'm going to go Toledo in this ballgame on ESPN3. Also, Virginia Tech and Tennessee on ABC. I'm actually going to go with Virginia Tech in this ballgame. I really like what everybody's saying about Tennessee and all, but they had trouble against App State. Now, they might have been doing the same thing Tennessee was doing, what they were doing against Tennessee, but Virginia Tech is a good team, a solid team, and I think that somehow they're going to find a way to get this game. Also, UNLV will try to push UCLA to 0-2 on the Pac-12 network. I'm going to go with UCLA. And finally, the Battle of New Mexico will be at 7 o'clock. New Mexico at New Mexico State on ESPN3. I'm actually going to go with New Mexico in this ball game. 9:15 p.m. Washington State at Boise State, ESPN2. Watch out for the Leacher in this ball game. Pac-12, Mike Leach, Washington State gets it done on the blue turf. Come on, Mike, do this for me, buddy. 9:30 p.m. Cal will be at San Diego State University on CBS Sports. I'm going to go with San Diego State. Also, 9:45 p.m. Grambling State will be at Arizona on the Pac-12 network. I'm going to go with the Zona Cardinals, or the Zona Wildcats. And finally, that final game that we were talking about, they started at 11 a.m. and they'll end at 11:59 p.m. as Tennessee Martin is at Hawaii on a local Hawaii network. Actually going to go with the Rainbow Warriors in this matchup. That's week 2 for you guys. That's all your picks. Don't take all these picks to Vegas. We all know what happened last week. I picked a couple of upsets that just didn't happen. A lot of them weren't even close, by the way. So don't take these picks to Vegas, but that's just who I think is going to win. I don't gamble. Hope y'all don't either. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See y'all next week for the picks game. And Boomer Sooner, everybody. Take care. Out of here.